What's up, guys? Week 5 NFL picks. To start it off, we've got the Jets playing against the Vikings. This game's in London. It's an early start, 9:30. We could see off the bat only 26% of bets are on the Jets. And there's already been a lot of complaints from the public about how this line looks fishy. Minnesota's 4-0. The Jets just got humiliated last week against Denver. Can't even beat Bo Nix, who had -7 passing yards in the first half. We've got people in the forums. No Need for Luck is talking about the Vikings. He likes them money line. He says Vikings have led all but a couple of minutes in this year's season. The defense is legit. I would argue the refs helped Green Bay get back into the game, as the interception at the goal line looked as if he did not possess it fully. So it looked like that last interception in last week's game against Green Bay shouldn't have happened. And then there was another call that he was surprised that went against the Vikings. He does think the NFL has an agenda to keep these games close, as blowouts look bad on the stat sheet. Jets are a mediocre team, and Rodgers will have a difficult time staying upright. The Jets are banged up on the offensive line. That wasn't even a strong point to begin with. It's Minnesota's turn to get back at Rodgers for his time in Green Bay. So Rodgers' first time playing the Vikings, who he's owned in his career when he was on the Vikings. We have another commenter talking about how does this line stink to high heaven, asking for any thoughts out there. One person takes the other side. Because the line is so fishy, because so few people are on the Jets, only 26%, he's thinking Aaron is going to walk off the field with that smirk on his face with a Jets W. Jets bounce back here and give the Vikings their first loss of the season. Someone else agrees that line is a real stinker and something is rotten along the Thames. Someone else says, I'm going to be on the Jets here. He doesn't think the line stinks necessarily, but it's a buy low opportunity for the Jets off an embarrassing loss at home. Green Bay forced Darnold to make some mistakes the second half, and he thinks the Jets will do more of that and win a lower scoring game. Colin Cowherd, his take is favorites do very well in London. They're the better team, the healthier team. The Jets are all banged up, including Rodgers. The Vikings have not trailed in their last 3 games between the Niners, Texans, and Packers. All good teams. Darnold's on fire. The Vikings also lead the NFL in sacks, so they put constant pressure on you against a bad Jets offensive line. He thinks the game will be close. The NFL obviously doesn't want the Jets to be humiliated or another blowout, but their 2 wins this year, talking about the Jets, have been against Jacoby Brissett and Will Levis. And the Will Levis game came down to the very end. Aaron Rodgers, Morgan Moses, Vera Tucker, CJ Mosley, all banged up. This is not a good spot for the Jets, and favorites do well when you go overseas. He's got the Jets in this one. So what do you guys think? Is the line too fishy? No one's on them, and Jets bounce back? Or are the Vikings just that much better, and the Jets are just too banged up that they can't get a win here? On to the next game, Baltimore visiting Cincinnati. This game's a popular one. Divisional matchup. Bengals are 1-3. Ravens just had that impressive win last week against the Bills. And we could see no one's interested in the Bengals. Only 26% of bets on them. And then we have Soup Can talking in the forum. Bengals' first divisional home game as a dog. Sign me up for that. It's not often you can get Burrow as a home dog. And with a team coming in that just emptied the tank, talking about the Ravens, why are the Ravens a divisional road favorite here? Ravens played their butts off versus the Chiefs, then blew it to the Raiders, then smoked the Cowgirls, but again blew the fourth quarter and almost lost that game. They host the Bills with the regression red flag. This was right after the Bills smoked the Jaguars in prime time. So he was expecting it was a clear fade opportunity on the Bills after that blowout win against the Jaguars. And this is a perfect example with similar to the Cowboys and Giants last week. Dallas had the worst run D in the league on a short week, but adjusted for a division opponent and shut it down. The wrong team is favored here. We have other commenters agreeing. Cincinnati's season is on the line here. You can't go 1-4 and drop a divisional game. Cincinnati rises to the occasion against good teams, always competitive against Kansas City or the Ravens. And I know this sentiment is true. I was on the Bengals earlier this year when they played Kansas City. They just seem to be a team that plays up to or down to their competition. Another commenter, Bengals as a home dog. Same sentiment here. Baltimore coming off a huge win. I think we've seen this one before. Burrow has been clicking. Like for him to keep things going here and get a big win for the Bengals at home. Another commenter is on the Bengals. This line in the Bengals-Ravens has moved too far. Bengals showed life last week. Even though it was against the Panthers, the run game finally showed up. We know Burrow can throw it. They do this every year. Lay eggs in the first couple of games, and then they hit their stride. Baltimore is off 2 big wins at Dallas and then versus the surging Bills. Do we see any sort of letdown here? Maybe. This matchup in Cincy last year had Baltimore as a 3-point dog. I just don't know what has changed in the past year to make a 5.5, 6-point difference in this spread. He doesn't think this Ravens team is better than last. The Cincy defense is clearly a problem, but Baltimore has given up a ton of air yards. He just thinks it's an overreaction and trusts Burrow to keep the game close against a desperate dog at home. Cincinnati's season is on the line. It's a divisional game. They need this one to stay alive. And then just a couple of stats. Cincinnati 23-15-1 against the spread after a straight up win. Burrow 14-8 against the spread as an underdog. Take these with a grain of salt. Then we've got another comment. Division game is important for both teams, but actually tends to lend to the dog, especially in the AFC North. Underdogs in the AFC North divisional games are 45 and 29, 61% ATS. Moving on to the Bills and the Texans. We've got Houston -1 by Brooklyn Capper. Important statement game for Texans early in the season. Expect them to show up and get the job done. Bills got a rude awakening in Baltimore last week with Ravens desperate for a win, and now in their second game on the road in a row versus another opponent that needs to win. Expects them to come up short, and it's a huge statement game for Diggs. It's a revenge game for him. He left on bad terms with the Bills, so I wouldn't mind a Bills or a Stephon Diggs anytime touchdown or over his receiving yards or receptions. Houston has not been impressive so far this year. Should be a close game. He's taking the other side of it. Moving on to the next one, we got the Panthers against the Bears. Not too much to say here. We had one guy, I hate cold weather, who's playing the Panthers because they have a solid run game, which should keep the game close and ease the game for Dalton. Bears' pass defense is great. Their run D not so much. The Bears have no business laying more than 3 points. And weather may play into this game. So who are the Bears to be laying 4 or more points, even if it is against the Panthers? Bears haven't proven that to us yet. Next up on the list, we've got the Browns visiting the Commanders. Commanders laying 3 at home. Browns lost their last 2 against bad teams. Washington's been on fire. I think they're on a 3-game win streak. No one's interested in the Browns. Only 28% on them. Steve Fezzik, if you guys heard of him, a famous sports bettor, says it's a contrarian play. Take the Browns. Fade the surging hot Commanders. Washington, they are the second highest pick team just to win, which also gives me concern and also plays into that contrarian take for this game with Steve Fezzik. Another game where there's not too much talk about. Colts visiting the Jaguars. Bets are even at 50-50. Jags laying 3. Jaguars are 0-4. Divisional game, another must-win game similar to the Bengals. They've got to win this one. So Jags is another play that I see going around. Just a desperate team that has to get a win against a backup Joe Flacco if he starts, or a hurt Anthony Richardson. Raiders visiting the Broncos. Not too much to say here. We've got 38% of the bets on the Raiders. Sean Payton has the Broncos playing well. We've got a good Denver defense. Divisional game, but I wouldn't be laying 3 with Denver. Would only look towards the dog or just stay away from this one. Dolphins at the Patriots. 2 bottom feeders, staying away from this one. And then we've got the Cardinals visiting the Niners. Cardinals in a division game after getting embarrassed. San Francisco with a lot of injuries. This one smells like a backdoor cover late. I will take the points. And if we look at the survivor pool, we have a lot of people on the 49ers at 12.8%. Green Bay visiting the Rams. Rams getting 3.5 at home. 60% of the bets coming in on the Packers. We got one commenter saying, I don't like the idea of laying 3.5 on the road with Green Bay, even with the Rams injuries, but they did a really good job rolling offensively in the second half with Love. And then we have the Giants visiting the Seahawks. Seahawks laying 6 at home. Giants are missing their starting running back Singletary and their star wide receiver. Neighbors, only 29% of bets coming in on the Giants. Seattle is the most popular survivor pick this week at 40%. So keep that in mind. If you guys are going to be parlaying them, we've seen the most popular survivor picks just busting parlays left and right. So is the juice worth the squeeze for this one? We have got Brooklyn Capper talking about the Seahawks. His play of the day at -7. Fading the Giants here. No Neighbors, no Singletary. Jones will be forced to do more than what he is able to do, and that's not a good thing. Hard to look at this game and see the Giants being able to drive down the field consistently and score when they couldn't do it with Neighbors and Singletary. They have not scored a TD in 6 quarters, and now they have to rely on guys like Slayton, Robinson, Ford, Wheaton, Hyatt, and other just no-name players. I don't know many of these guys. And so it's a short week for the Seahawks, but it's hard not to see Walker and Charbonnet not wearing down the Giants. Next game, Dallas at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh laying 2.5 at home. Bets are around 50-50. We've got one commenter talking. I hate cold weather. Dallas, who barely beat the Giants, is on the road against Tomlin off a loss. Tomlin is good in these spots, and Dallas D is atrocious. Now they lose Parsons and Lawrence, their 2 primary edge guys. They have no depth on defense, as Dante Fowler and Armstrong left with Dan Quinn to go to Washington. Steelers at home with a rookie left tackle going up against Watt. Pittsburgh was beaten by the Colts on the road, but they outscored the Colts 21-10 in the second half. This is about Dallas, though. Yippee, they beat the Giants and Browns. They can't run the ball. They average 75 yards rushing a game. The Steelers have a great run D, so it's going to be all Dak Prescott. Cowboys defense since week 2 has been bad. You can run on Dallas. What does Pittsburgh do? Run. Cooks out. Parsons is doubtful. DeMarcus is out. Trevon Diggs is banged up. I get the healthier team at home, and I think Arthur Smith, their offensive coordinator, Pittsburgh's, and Justin Fields have been pretty good. I'm going to take the Steelers to win in a competitive game, 28-24. Last game on the list, we've got the Saints at the Chiefs. Chiefs laying 5 at home. We see a slight edge towards the Saints, 56% of the bets on the Saints. We've got Mango Woman coming in here. She's on the Saints first half. Saints come into Monday night owning the highest first half point total in the league, averaging 20.5 points a game. On the road, they're even better, averaging 24.5, although it is a small sample size. On the other side, you have the Chiefs averaging a middling 10.8 points, tied with Tennessee, and fewer than the Giants. KC has trailed at halftime in every game but one versus Baltimore, the first game of the season. Now we get the Saints, who've led at the half in every game except for one, off 2 very close back-to-back losses on the road versus Mahomes, and his O is banged up.